or art in general, I think of people who influenced me. And one of those people was you, who was my class art
Ah,
teacher.
people
So,
don't know that about me.
that's true. And I feel like I need to reveal all because I love you so much. And so like I always think of that when I'm working every day. It's just like why I love this job and why I love the students. I work at a high school, so I see students every day, and why I love the teachers and why I work so hard in my career is because this is where everything started. Like this job is where my whole life started, really. And I don't see photography as solitary. Like, yes, some subjects matters you don't actually need people for, like the landscape photography. You just kind of walk and you don't actually take pictures of people. But the final product is definitely something you share. It's something
Yeah.
you have to share with the world. And so that's not solitary in my mind. And for me, my art is to share joy. So I decided pretty early on that I didn't want to make photography my career. So the other thing I like to do is to take care of people. So in my job right now, I take care of 600 students. So yeah, like although it wasn't something I thought I would be doing, it's definitely something I learned to love. And I'm always trying to incorporate my art into my work, although it's kind of impossible right now with the job I have, but I try.
Right. You do
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Um, does your yoga practice, does it inspire your creativity? Because this is one of the areas that I'm really interested.
Hmm.
And what postures do you find the most challenging and why? This is a loaded question. And what style of yoga is your favorite?
Ooh, that is a difficult question.
Yeah, it's a
um,
loaded one.
it is a loaded one. So I find yoga as a de-stressor. So it's kind of the same feeling I get when I'm sitting and editing my photos or walking around with my camera or working on a new project to crochet. It's all really similar. So for me, the great thing about yoga is the stretching aspect of it. So that feeling of tightness being released and working muscles that you don't normally use. Because crocheting and knitting is definitely not a physical activity. Like you just move your
Right.
hands. And then my current job is the same. I just sit at a desk all day. So depending on how I'm feeling is how I choose my yoga practice.
Mhm.
So at night when it's late and I'm tired, but I kind of want to do something and move my body, I like to go to yin class
Mhm.
because it's so meditative and meditative and aromatherapy yin is definitely my favorites. But like practicing in a darkened room with others who are trying to reach the same place mentally is super relaxing. I really enjoy that part of it. And holding a pose for however many breaths that we're taking is a really great stretch for me. It's just so satisfying. And I feel really rejuvenated afterwards. And then other times when I want to sweat and work really hard, I love to go to hot classes because of slow movements in a hot room and sweating out all the bad mental and physical stress is really rejuvenating. I really, really love that too. So, as I mentioned earlier, like tree pose and dancer pose is really difficult for me. Anything that's balancing, I'm really bad at balancing for some reason. um,
That's because you're thinking
but
about so many things.
yeah, exactly. And so, like, as I get deeper into the practice and as I'm working and it's closer to the end of class, when I get into my breaths better and I'm concentrating more, I find it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But then I kind of second guess myself and then I fall over. So I try my best. But my favorite pose right now is actually cat cow and warrior two. Cat cow is it's been really helping my physical therapy after I hurt my back and just the breathing in and out, and it really helps me get into that space to have a really good session.
Yeah.
I like to lay my mat down and just do that, get into child pose and just get my mind mentally there. And that really kicks off a really good yoga session for me.
Uh,
And then Warrior Two is actually one of my other favorite poses because it's just like the inherent strength in that pose and the way you move your body into that position in a vinyasa is just so fluid, and I find it's really pretty. Um, so I would love to sit in a yoga studio actually and take photos. That would be so awesome. Just some like black and white photos of people just doing these, moving through these poses, just the line of the body and the muscle definition would be so gorgeous. I think that would
yeah.
be great.
Yeah. And you're the person to do it.
Yeah,
You are
I
the
hope
person.
so.
Yeah, you're the person to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and most people have such busy, demanding lives, and there are there any rituals you do to bring balance back into your life? I know you talked about, your drinking tea, but
Yeah. Hmm.
so can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So for me, I drink tea and I do art. That's kind of how I de-stress. So
Mhm.
uh, I like to tell people I'm like a little grandma because after a stressful day, I just go home and make tea and sit with my yarn and my iPad queued up with a new movie. Um, and in my work, because it's so stressful, like you said, I'm always like told to go home at the end of a busy day and have a glass of wine.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but drinking tea and knitting is just the same for me. Like I'm
Right.
not a very good drinker, so I'd rather just drink tea and go for my knitting, and work with my hands, do something relaxing like that. But yeah, and then I also like to take hot baths. I love baths. Or I would go to a nice yoga class, yin class, or a hot yoga class, and just sweat it all out. And when I lay down on my mat and made my way into a child's pose, it just relaxes me so much. I could feel the muscles in my shoulders relax. And the great thing about yoga is you don't have to think about anything other than your breath and your next pose, unlike when you're doing anything else, you have to think about the next thing constantly. So something like a
Yeah.
yoga class in a darkened room with the music playing really softly, it's just like a deep breath out and just out, and just
Yeah.
relax. And that's always super nice too. So,
So now, big question. What is the
mhm.
next artistic endeavor you would like to experience?
Oh, that's such a hard question.
Because there's so
um,
much out there.
there's so much out there. Yeah, there's so many things I'd love to do. Like I said, I would love working with my hands. So I would love to get back into ceramics, just to get my hands on clay. I think that would be really, really fun. And I've seen so much beautiful pottery recently, and all I could think of is I could probably make that. Like I don't have to pay money to buy it. I'd rather just make it.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. And another branch of art I would like to try is sewing. So working more with textiles. Um, Working with something other than yarn is something I've always wanted to do. I like to go to fabric stores and just like touch all the fabric and kind of imagine what kind of things I could make with it.
Yeah.
And I always see patterns for like nice bags and clothes and stuff online. And I think like, I want to make that, but I don't know how. So yeah, so like something like learning how to use a sewing machine. I think that would be something I should learn probably for anything in the future.
Hmm.
And then watercolors. Um,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I haven't touched a paintbrush since high school, but
Uh-oh.
yeah, I know, right? But I've seen so many art pieces that use acrylics and watercolors, and there's a lot of art pieces right now that you could get that have watercolors. They're using watercolors, and I think they're
Yes.
gorgeous, and I think they're so pretty. But then again, I look at it and I'm like, I could probably make that
No, you
instead of
could.
pay the money for it, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of something I might
Yeah.
want to get into. And it's perfect summer project. Sit outside, do some watercolors. I think that'd be really fun. So
Yeah, and you can, and there's some new things out there now. There's some, well, they're new to me.
yeah,
You can, because I'm such a traditionalist, but there's some great there clay boards that you can actually do watercolors on, and there's,
yeah,
yeah, and there's a new,
yeah.
and it's probably not new. I just haven't been looking for it, but there's some great watercolor canvas out there.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And I've seen like watercolor pens, which are
yes.
really interesting. Yeah. And so, but I look at it, I'm kind of like, I want to use like a paintbrush though. Like
You
that's,
could though.
yeah, exactly.
You could try that and use that. I think that you've got so much to do, Mary. I mean,
I know.
so much in so little time. So,
Hmm.
what can you give us an example of one of your most interesting subjects, sort of street photography that you actually photographed? I mean, you probably have a lot
Yeah.
of them. Is there any that really stick out in your mind?
There's a couple actually.
Yeah.
One of them I still have the photograph for. I have the negatives and everything for, which is really nice. And
Yeah.
it was actually, I went out and I was standing on the corner of Dundas and Yonge Street in Toronto, and they have one of those crosswalks that you could cross diagonally.
Yeah.
They had just put that in when I was there in Toronto, and I stood there on the corner with my tripod and my camera and my umbrella because it actually started pouring rain. And I was taking pictures of people crossing the street. And I didn't actually end up talking to anyone because it was actually quite late at night. But I have this great photo of someone walking across the street, and I took it on a long exposure. So they're kind of streaking across the street with the lights behind them in the rain.
Wow.
And I thought that was really interesting. I actually made that into a black and white photograph.
Oh my gosh.
And I used it in one of my projects. Yeah. And
wow.
I had taken a picture of him as he was walking across the street, and I put it all together in this long panorama. And that was actually really interesting. And I remember thinking afterwards, like, I wonder where he was going. Like, I wonder who he was talking to on that phone. And I would have loved to talk with him and show him this photograph I took of him.
I have to tell you, Mary, I've just found this conversation absolutely fascinating with you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Oh, no.
It went so quickly. Thank you so much for joining us on Yin Yoga Lifestyle, Mary. And if you can actually reach Meri Kimura at find.meri@gmail.com or on Instagram at MKIMUR. And we'll look forward to your new website when it comes out and all your fabulous artwork. And please, Mary, we are just absolutely over the moon that you've come on to Yin Yoga Lifestyle. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And please don't forget to check us out at yinyogalifestyle.com, adding enlightenment, calm, and balance to your everyday life. Thank you for joining Yin Yoga Lifestyle. I am your host, Colette Darville.
Join us next time to continue our journey of balancing into a state of perfect harmony. Until then, this is Colette Darville, reminding you to inhale, so, and exhale, hum.